Warning, the following audio transmission is based on theory and is intended for entertainment purposes only. It's Doomsday and its affiliates will not be held liable for anything your dumbass does. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome everybody to It's Doomsday podcast. Today is Friday the 13th. Time is 9:45 p.m. and joining me is the infamous Safe Prep.
Infamous for sure.
Infamous for sure, dude. So how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Oh, it's been a day. It's been a day. Ladies and gentlemen, there seems like there's never any dull moments of 2024. I'm just waiting for this year to be over. Yeah, man, that's where I currently sit today. Here comes 2025, dude. Bring it on.
Bring it.
Bring it. So, today's episode was a listener requested one. And remember, you could submit all your listener requested episodes to itsdoomsdaypodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit up the link tree, find all my contact information there. You can get to that by going to www.jestersvoice.com, hit up the link tree, or simply add me on Snapchat at JesterDooms. In Safe Prep, where can they get a hold of you at?
On TikTok mainly and YouTube at Safe Prep.
At Safe Prep on TikTok, at Safe Prep on the YouTube. So there you go. So tonight's listener requested episode was prepping for the kids. How do we get the kids ready for the apocalypse, the doomsday, the craziness in the world that could possibly come? And there are so many factors to this. I really don't know where to start, dude. So what I really want to start with is kind of the basics where I think other people fall off with their kids, just as far as daily life. Does that make sense?
Some more obscure stuff, maybe.
Maybe some more obscure stuff, but my biggest go-to in my mind is having the proper footwear for your kids. How many people's kids own waterproof boots, hiking boots, like good actual shoes that they could traverse terrain in?
Not many, I would imagine.
Right. So I could tell you this because experience. I do not like taking my kids out into the woods without the proper footwear because I've encountered nothing but nightmares with it. Okay. I will not take the kids out in Crocs, sandals, slick bottom shoes. Like, I went out and I purchased my son these Adidas Trek hiking shoes just specifically for when we go out into the woods hiking, right?
Yep.
Because kids do not have the weight that we have as an adult, okay? So they don't get as much foot to the ground weighted traction, right? So they can slip and fall a lot easier on smoother surfaces. So grip is key. But to go back to the idea, this is now the apocalypse. This isn't just your hiking trip. What are you putting on your kids' feet? Do you have ways to waterproof whatever it is that they're wearing, right?
Something else to consider. And this is something that adults should be prepared for. You know, we tell people to keep good footwear in their vehicles in case they have to get home, even if it's not apocalypse. If you got to walk, it's just better to have a good pair of Merrells or some boots or something. When you buy those, they need to be broke in. There's a little bit of a period where they're going to be extremely uncomfortable. May not be so much the case with kids just because it's going to be probably a smaller shoe and there's not as much weight, but it's going to fit different than a tennis shoe. So if you break those in, that means when you actually need them, they won't hurt as bad. Something to keep in your first aid kit, individual first aid kit, and a family first aid kit, and this goes right along with footwear, is moleskin. That way, if you get a blister because you didn't get a chance to break in those boots, you're not going to be in as much pain, and the blister's not going to get as bad.
There you go. That's a good point. So to continue on, footwear is very important in any survival situation. Okay, it just is. I've been in scenarios. So I do a lot of hiking, for those in the audience that don't know. And I can tell you, having the wrong shoes and being stuck out there with them, and the only way you can get out of those shoes and get back is to walk. Okay, you're going to be hurting. And the same goes for your kids. Okay, and you're not going to want to pick them up and carry them, not over any kind of long distances. So I'm sure a lot of you are asking, like, well, gee, Jester, my kids grow like crazy. What am I supposed to do? Buy new shoes every 6 months till Doomsday gets here and they never use them? No, that's not what I'm saying. So you get yourself the shoes that have the good grip. If you could find them waterproof, great. Buy a couple sizes bigger. You can always put in a couple Ziploc bags and a couple pairs of socks to A, make them waterproof, and B, to suck up that extra room so you can get a little bit more life and longevity out of these shoes, right? Because again, when you talk about the apocalypse, say the apocalypse lasts for a year and you can't go to a shoe store to get shoes, okay? They might grow into that size that's one or two sizes bigger in that time span. So I know I'm pretty headstrong about the footwear, and I want to segue this into clothing in general. The idea specifically of protecting your children from the elements, insulated layers, and waterproof clothing, frog togs, okay, things of this nature to have for your kids. Togs. Yeah, frog togs, rock and roll. I'm sure you have some, right? You know how good they are. Yeah. Right. So my middle son, I have frog togs for. The littlest one, I have garbage bags that I could turn into ponchos in the event that we need it. Okay, so thinking outside the box for some of these things is really good. And then another thing I want to throw into this, as far as just to go into gear a little bit, is, guys, kids' backpacks are cheap, okay? And kids are going to whine and moan and complain if they're carrying a pack full of stuff that they don't want to carry, okay? So you go out, you get yourself a couple cheap little hiking kids' backpacks at Walmart or wherever it is that you shop. Load these things down with some basic essentials they will need for survival, like their own underwear, their own socks, their own extra T-shirts or pants or whatever. You wrap it up, you make a roll, you put it in there, but then allow them to put some of the things that they want into this bag too. I know if it's the apocalypse and you're leaving your house, you're not thinking about bringing, this toy or that toy, but your kids are, and they want a possession. They want something to take with them. So allow them to throw.
We call it a comfort item.
Right, there you go. Comfort items. Allow them to bring something with them in order to help the moral aspect of this, right?
And they're almost immediately, if you give them the choice, they're going to want to bring something electronic. And that's great depending on the disaster, if you've got some way to power those things. But if you're planning for the apocalypse or SHTF, it needs to be something like a stuffed animal, a picture of a pet, just something that's sentimental to them, that's easy to carry. And here's the other thing is, if you can get away with it, if it's not something they use every day, have that packed already in a bag, have their third or fourth favorite animal in that bag ready to go. Because I'm telling you, if you have to evacuate, if you had to bug out and they had to be quick, that's probably something you're going to forget. And it's an important item for kids, so we can give them a little bit of respite from the trauma that they'll be experiencing during that disaster. So have it in a bag, have it ready to go. That way you ain't got to think of one more thing to grab.
Exactly. So that kind of reminds me, it's going to push us into a little bit of a separate direction for a second, but you made me think of this. Having items in there that are educational, that keep the kids involved. And what I mean by this is knot tying guides, field guides, right? Mushroom identification guides, star identification guides, having these little pamphlets. A lot of times you can pick these up at Tractor Supply, and other little bookstores will have sections with these where
I
it's
love
kind
me
of
some Tractor Supply library, man.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, dude. I think I own a majority of the books and guides that they sell there. I think I have almost all of them. But no, so these little educational things to put in there, one, they provide entertainment just for them to look at and read through and look at the pictures of the mushrooms or the birds or whatever. But then you can take time and apply that to the environment that you're in, especially if you're like in some good wilderness. We're not talking an urban setting, but in a good wilderness setting. Those are going to keep the kids engaged in the situation. That's going to help monitor what they're doing. And by all means, if you got to go foraging and you've got a second set of eyes looking at different things with that guide saying, hey, Dad, I think that mushroom looks like this one in the book. And we can identify real quick if that's an edible, fantastic. Same goes with other plant life, right? So this is one of those things you can throw in their bag. Like, here, buddy, I'm going to give you the edible plant life guide, and I'm going to give you the nighttime star guide. And you look at these, and then we'll try to find those stars later. But if you see any of those plants while we're hiking, let me know. We're going to pick some up. Another thing you can do.
I'll tell you what, kids are going to be bored after the apocalypse or after SHTF and after a disaster, just like they get bored now. And there's no quicker way to get a kid on board than to give them a job to do.
Oh, exactly.
So, as long as it's a safe job and they're being monitored and everything, those books are great to teach them actual, skills that can help you and your family. So if I remember correctly, you told me we had a few specific questions via the It's Doomsday Podcast email. What's that email, Jester?
The email is itsdoomsdaypodcast@gmail.com.
And I've actually had this question asked a few times on my TikTok, and it's not really a question that's easily answered on that platform, but it is here. And it goes to a more, I don't even want to say preppery kind of place, like a worst case scenario kind of thing, specifically something like the Civil War or where OPSEC and being quiet was a big deal. If we have younger children, how do we keep those younger children quiet when being quiet is important to keep us from being discovered? And a little bit of research on that. But I won't go into too much detail. I'll give you a few ideas, though. There are a ton of games that you can find online. All you got to do is search be quiet games or silence games for kids, and you can pick a game that you think that will be engaging for your kids. One of them that they had is just like this silent ball game where you put the kids in a circle and they just toss a ball to one more person in the group and they just remain quiet. With games like that, it's going to need to be something probably that they've played once or twice prior to the apocalypse. The other thing is building some sort of sound deafening room or some kind of sound deafening device. So I guess for visualization, think of an igloo cooler with two head holes popped into the lid of it and the kid's head's up inside. Anything that would dampen kids making noise, kids crying, those types of things. And you can insulate rooms with lots of different materials. So you just have to be creative doing that. And I'll also say this. I was actually surprised. I was looking back. I was like, I was doing my research and I was like, how did people keep their kids quiet during the Civil War? And I think kids back then and kids today are a little different. We have kind of prolonged the adolescence of kids in our generation now. And there were like 300 kids on the Union side that actually were under 14 years old and fought in the war. So I think there was a maturity level then that there is not now. I think they might have realized being quiet was an important skill that could keep them alive. And that's something our kids today are not going to have. So check out those games, practice those games now if that's a concern of yours. And think as far as when you fortify your castle, when you're doing your security plan, put yourself in a situation where if you think you were going to have to keep your kids quiet and your kids weren't being quiet, they were scared or screaming or anything like that, what could you do to lessen that noise to somebody that might be an adversary? What do you guys add on that one? That's a deep topic right there.
Okay, yeah. So I do have a good segue off of that. And here it is. So one of my big things I do is I try to make the apocalypse stuff kind of fun. Like,
Yes.
we're gonna do this solar generator thing today, or we're gonna build a fire today, or we're gonna do this today. Like, so I do something to try to make it fun. And the result of this has been like Dingus going out and making his own shelters, getting firewood ready. He's building his own bug out bag. Like, he's doing things, right? But there's a problem here because I've created comfort in the scenario too good to where are they going to want to go outside and see it in the apocalypse, right? Are they going to want to run out the door and be like, yay, the apocalypse is here, right?
Yeah.
So there is this gray area. So how you were talking about, there was kids back in the day, there was a line of, being quiet was a valuable skill. I think that this could be something that could be employed now. how I'm working with my kids on, hey, we're going to learn how to, skin a deer, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do all these cool things. I think on the same token, maybe I ought to work on, hey, let's be quiet. Now, what my parents did with me when I was a kid, hey, we're going fishing. Being loud scares the fish. Shut up.
Yep.
You got to learn to be quiet, okay? You calm down, dude. You're scaring a fish. Well, can I take a radio? No, because the fish will hear it. Shut up,
Yep.
right? So that, and also hunting, I learned to be quiet and keep my mouth shut for hours and hours on end.
Yep.
Right. So this is something that could be employed. Another thing you could do, another avenue you can go down, are different kinds of events where silence is key. Take your kids to a golf game, right?
True.
And they'll learn to stop. Take your kids to see a movie where they can't talk in the theater, right? Take your kids to a play or like a dinner show where you're focused and you're not talking back and forth, right? These things are entertainment for the kids, but also it's teaching them that, hey, you got to pay attention, focus on what's going on, and be quiet while it's time to be quiet.
Well,
right?
we do our best to get our kids involved and teach them skills that will help them, whether it's apocalypse or not. And we try to do that through making it fun, through teaching them skills that they enjoy doing so they can shine and they can find their talents and abilities without going into it with the younger kids on why we think the way we think, the political part of it, the socioeconomic parts of it, because we need to let our kids be kids. But I think a common thread with the things you were saying and what I was saying, especially with the games, is that you need to incorporate this somehow into your life and their childhood or adolescence now, so they've been exposed to it. Because I think if you don't have a conversation or your kids don't have any kind of experience with being quiet when it's important, then you get to the apocalypse and you sit them down and be like, hey, listen, it's really important and you're quiet. These people are trying to hurt us. You're not going to fix it with a single conversation at the beginning of an apocalypse and get them to understand it if they don't have some experience behind it with a good memory attached to it.
Right, exactly. So I could sit here and start running through all these skills in my head that I think are very valuable for kids to have in an apocalyptic setting. But I don't want to do that. But how Safe Prep just mentioned, the idea of trying to teach the kids, get them involved, and show them different things. There's so many different little prepper aspects that just go into daily life. And how you were talking about, be quiet because there's people out here. These people aim to hurt us, right?
Yeah.
So we have the exact opposite in real life day to day. Like, this is a stranger. You need to make as much noise as you possibly can,
Yep.
to let people know that you're in danger. Well, it's quite the opposite with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I even draw a blank of. How do you separate the two? Where do you draw the line? What do you think about that?
I don't know, man. There's so much that we have to prepare these kids for that did not exist when you and I were children.
Right.
And nobody gave us a book on it. We're just doing our best. But you think back at how many times our kids have surprised us or made us proud, and those moments where we've realized they can say more than they're saying, they know more than they're showing us. Those types of things. And I think if we're honestly as parents trying to teach them these lessons in a good-hearted way with good memories attached to it, not out of fear, that they're going to take those lessons, at least the ones that we think are important, and run with them and make us proud.
No, I agree 100%. And, it's, again, you go back to the life lessons. I spent my childhood growing up in a house that was, semi off grid, where we had a well and wood burning heat and all these things. My kids don't have to split firewood and do this kind of stuff currently, right?
Yeah.
And it's like those skills that I learned will help me in the apocalypse, and they're not privy to that. And then you get some of these kids that are not getting the outside time, and they're living their lives through social media and the technology. These are the kids that are going to suffer the most, right?
Well, and that goes into an entirely another awesome conversation, which I know you've had on your shows before and that you're very passionate about and a lot of experience with, and that's homeschooling and how that can benefit our kids after something big happens. And maybe that's a topic we need to explore some more in the future.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that would be a really good one to explore. But what I was trying to get at with the technology thing is get your kids, just get them outside. start getting the kids involved in nature now. Show them. There's people I know that are terrified to be in the woods, that will not swim in a creek, that will not swim in a lake or a pond. Like, they won't do it because they weren't raised that way. They were very sheltered. Get the kids outside now. Show them nature is an awesome place and not a scary place.
We, of course, we've done camping, we've done RVing, and both my kids have been in scouts along with myself and my wife. So our youngest is in now, but several weeks ago we went out to my neighbor's property that's pretty close to the house. It's where I get to go camp and chill and hang out, do some survival videos. And my oldest G1 went with us, and man, as soon as we got there, he like took the hatchet and the knife and was putting everything on his belt and took off and was chopping down trees and sawing stuff and getting firewood for the fire that night. And he was the one that got to use the ferro rod and the magnesium to start the fire, and just on fire for just being out there and playing, because that's what it is to them. And it's those moments that make you proud when you've exposed your kid to that part of preparedness and given them some skills that they'd be able to use and assist us with post-apocalypse.
Right. And, I was just thinking to myself as you're running through this, like, wow, what a proud parent moment. Yeah, that is really kick-ass, man. I'm totally here for it. Yeah. And again, to go back, like, Dingus is the same way. When we go out and we're doing things, he's the first one to want to start doing stuff and get the fire going. And, he's all about it. And it's almost like now it's kind of to the point where, are you interested in helping, or do you just want to be a firebug and I have to dial it back a little bit? You know what I mean? Like, we're just going to look at the fire. We're not going to feed the fire. We're just going to look at the fire tonight. But no, that's awesome. And there's other things that can be incorporated. I mean, having your own property or your own access to property goes a long way. Like, if you could do the hunting and the trapping with your kids, that's a really big deal. You get the kids out fishing, that's another big deal. Anything in the realm of outdoors, I mean, is tremendous for this. You know what I'm saying?
And here's the cool thing. And, not everybody has the same opportunities, not everybody has the same financial means. And it honestly takes a lot of work to have the right equipment, get out there and know what you're doing, and actually have a comfortable night, overnight camping. But you can put in all that work, time and effort, and even money purchasing gear, and spend quality time with your family. And the apocalypse never, ever happen, and you never need any of those skills to survive, and it will have been worth it simply because you spent that time with your family. So think of camping, think of preparedness and teaching your kids skills as just an investment in your kid's life and an excuse, if anything else, just to spend time with them.
Oh, absolutely. And then I wanted to reference something you mentioned earlier, was the idea of giving the kids a job, giving the kids a task, right? Mm-hmm. So, you could divvy up jobs for the kids now, very simplistic things that could help you out in the event of shit does hit the fan. And it could be simple, inventory of items. Once a month, we're going to break down the backpacks and repack them and make sure everything's there, right?
Yeah.
Give them a job that they can be in charge of that's kind of a repetitive thing that they're interested in. And whether that's, hey, we got to go through the batteries this month and check dates, whether we got to go through this bag and make sure everything's there. Find little things to work with them with. And this may sound crazy, but when the shit hits the fan at the end of the day and you say, hey, man, can you go grab me the water filtration tablets? Well, guess what? Now they know right where to go for them.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going through your first aid stuff frequently, they know right where to go for them. So, okay, you work in EMS, and I'm sure that you guys go through checklists weekly, daily, and monthly over your truck, and you know where everything is on that truck. Why? Because when shit hits the fan for you in that moment, you need to know where that item is that you need, right?
Absolutely.
And a lot of it comes with repetition. My first day on the truck, I didn't know where everything was, okay? Now I've checked these trucks off so damn much, I could go through it pretty much blindfolded and find things.
Right.
So the same can be said, with your kids. And then also with that, and I don't know how to say this without sounding like creepy, but you have to find a way to let your kids know to not share too much information about what it is that you're doing. You don't want your kids to go to school and say, oh yeah, daddy's got 10,000 cans of green beans at the house. You don't want that. You don't want that to be a thing. Okay. So with me, my kids, I choose the level of involvement for certain things. My kids know that we got survival food out the wazoo. They know that we do. But I don't ever sit here and be like, oh yeah, dude, we have enough survival food to survive, 5 years, 10 years. I don't say that because that's the wrong information for them to take. So my tactic is they know where it is. They know we have it. They don't know the amount. I just keep telling them we don't have enough.
Kids, they're going to pick up on any obscure thing you don't even remember saying.
Right.
And immediately go repeat it.
And that's like what that's why I do the whole we've got survival food. Like if they're like, well, how are we going to eat? Well, dude, we got plenty of survival food. We'll be fine. Like, well, how much do we have? Well, not enough. So if it ever does come up in conversation like, hey, is your daddy a prepper? You guys got survival food at home? Well, he's got some, but not enough. Yeah. So, so I'm not an extremist. Cool. All right. Then, moving on.
Well, that makes me curious. I'm going to have to talk to Grayson and actually see how much he knows and get him to describe it. And maybe now I'm a little worried.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, but see, these are the things that the average person doesn't really think to pick their own brain about. Like what information are the kids taking out of what we're doing here at the home and how much are they sharing with the world? Because information that might be sensitive to me and you might not be so sensitive to the kids. So like the kids know we have guns and ammo. They don't really know what we have. They know we have a 22 we take out shooting. Okay. They don't know how much ammo is there for that 22. I don't share that information because for me, I feel that my 22 LR, I feel is like it's going to be what I go grocery shopping with. So I want a good bit of ammo with that. Do I feel like I have excessive amounts of ammo? No, because it's 22. It's cheap, right? Do I feel like I have enough to survive the apocalypse? Probably. We'll probably be okay. But again, that's something it's going to be. I go pop a squirrel every other day when we're starting to run low on food. You know what I mean?
This is Safe Brett's going to a gun show tomorrow by herself. So, we might be in trouble.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I've told her everything I want, so it may just be doing a bunch of video conferencing.
Yeah, there you go. That could be fun. Anyway, so kind of some of the last and final things I'll leave with is, okay, and this is like one of the biggest things I was saving for the very end of the show. It is not impossible for a child to save a life, okay? So the idea of teaching your kids proper life-saving tactics now as children is fantastic. Teaching them how to stop a bleed, absolutely fantastic, because they might need to put a tourniquet on you, okay? They might need to dress a traumatic wound that you have. And if you're not, so say that you have a slip and fall and you knock yourself out and you got a head bleed. Gee, don't you wish those kids knew how to do wound care at that moment while you're knocked out?
Yep.
I mean, or any kind of injury in any capacity, having them understand how to stop a bleed is, in my opinion, huge. Okay. And not even just for you. If you get separated from the kids and they suffer an injury, they might need to do some wound care on themselves so they can make it back from where they're at while you and the kids are separated. Because I mean, it is the apocalypse. But like, let's be honest here. A lot of people are separated from their kids for at least 40 hours a week. You're about to be with them 24/7. You might tell the 12-year-old, hey, dude, go gather some firewood. I've had enough of you. Go get some firewood. Don't come back till you have all that you can carry. Okay.
Yep.
And he might simply slip and fall and have a stick poking through his leg. It's that simple, or that quickly these things happen. And the ability of, him not being able to scream for help or yell or call you on a cell phone saying, hey, I'm in trouble. The idea that he could work on himself and get back to the house or back to wherever, that is key. So don't forget to start working with these kids now. I send my one son to EMS safety camp every year. And then we also have conversations about these things at the house. So he knows more than he leads on, but he knows how to put on a tourniquet. He knows how to stop a bleed. I think he even knows CPR.
So we do, in Cub Scouts, there's first aid training in the Cub Scout ranks. So when they're like ages 5 to 11, they have to do some first aid requirements. The Red Cross and the American Heart Association don't really do courses for kids. it's just a long, boring class, and kids don't want to sit through that. If you are a parent and have first aid experience, or if you're a parent and you don't have first aid experience, want to learn, man, there's just so much out there on the internet that is so easy. And what we do, we get on YouTube, we do some research, we watch a couple of sucky videos on the topic, and then we find one that engages us. And the basic stuff, learning how to bandage wounds, learning how to do a splint, learning how to get a splinter out, learning how to get a tick off or a bee sting or something like that. And those are things that you could learn right alongside your kid by just watching YouTube video and having some basic first aid supplies to practice on each other with. And you'd be surprised how excited kids get about using their brain and their hands at the same time to do a skill.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree, man. So we're about to get out of here, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody's enjoyed this episode. And again, this is a listener-suggested episode. If you guys want to suggest topics, simply email it's doomsdaypodcast@gmail.com or send something on the Snap. Safe Prep, you got anything else before we're out of here?
Is this our last episode before Christmas, or?
No, it should not be. We should have one more in there.
All right. Well, we won't wish you a Merry Christmas yet.
We won't wish you a Merry Christmas yet. Actually, yeah, we got one more coming before Christmas. Right. And then we'll wish you a Merry Christmas on the next one. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for myself and Safe Prep. I want to thank you guys for listening. Safe Prep, take us out of here. You got something good?
Absolutely not. Y'all have a good week.
This is an emergency action message. At approximately 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, NORAD is tracking 15 ICBM nuclear missiles inbound to the following cities: Orlando, Miami, Pittsburgh, Dover, Newark, Richland, Philadelphia, New York City, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Boston, Seattle, Detroit. This is an extremely deadly situation. Stay tuned. The next emergency message will be a presidential address.